Good morning and welcome back to another video, and today is another day of daily gold. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so today we're going to be going over raid night stuff, and more specifically what we're actually going to be selling or crafting to actually make gold within the first raid night, which is Castle Nathria. Now obviously it comes out tonight and I'm working, so that means I've got to take a different approach than most, but the method still remains the same. That being the case, what you're going to be wanting to do is head over to the Darkmoon Fair with your cooking character. Now, obviously I neglected cooking in the old world, so basically I've got to do a little bit of leveling to actually get myself up to this, but the method remains the same. What you're going to be wanting to do is go over to the fishing vendor, and she actually sells a load of these actual recipes, which are the herb fillets for that, and basically these new feasts that actually came in with Shadowlands. And basically these feasts give you the ability to actually do like set a great feast that will feed the party, dress them in fancy or something like that, and it restores 10% health and mana over 10 seconds, and it gives you a versatility buff. The other one, it does the same, but it does a set amount of health. So these are really nice and really easy to actually craft, and there are ones that are based on percentage, and that's really helpful for like raiders for the night. So if you want to actually buy out all of these recipes, it will cost you 170 Darkmoon Dagger more. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to buy all of these, and then we're going to actually go ahead and get along with that. So what we're going to be wanting to do is we're going to want to learn all of these recipes. Obviously my cooking is absolutely trash on this character, so we're just going to have to learn the basic ones. But don't fret, we will be okay with all of this. So, with these recipes all learned, we'll be wanting to put them into our TSM. So if we go into our TSM board right now, we can actually go down to cooking, and then we can then open that up with all of the others. So obviously I've got Shadowlands, I've got buff food, feasts, large meals. This one is set up so basically it will craft any of them if they produce a profit. The same goes for all of that when it comes towards these actual recipes as well, but they'll be done in a separate group, which will just be called Darkmoon. Now, once we've actually set it at Darkmoon, what we're going to want to do is we're going to just say buff food, and then we're going to be wanting to do the one for feasts, because obviously you don't want to make the same amount of feasts and buff food because it just makes no sense. So what we'll be doing for this one is we're going to have an increase for these feasts in this group, and then we'll actually go along with that. So we'll go to operations, go to my crafting, and obviously I've got a load of crafting setups already done. What I want to do is make around about 200 of the actual feasts, so we can go into our subgroup, we can close down the mount production one, and we can go down to cooking and press feasts for 200. For that would be okay, and then when it comes to buff food, we'll make 100 of each. Now, obviously you can determine this by however you wish. This is just the way I would go about doing it, and then so that means that these groups for the Darkmoon are now going to be crafted at feasts and buff food. So that's pretty good. Now we've got to actually go ahead and go along with that. That is basically how I'm going to go ahead and do it, and that's how I'm going to primarily do my crafting for this. I just think these Darkmoon feasts would be actually really handy because they're done off of a percentage basis. That means that they're really cheap, because if we actually can go into WorthIt and we go into fishing, the actual price of Darkmoon Daggermore is around about 6,000 gold per hour. That's really bad, but really cheap and really easy to get a hold of for us. So that means that we can actually craft some decently good feasts which give a decent buff, and then we can actually sell those on for people who want to buy them, and could be a very quick way in order to get some decent gold return for that if we just get ahead on that right now for raid night. So that's one way we can actually utilize a low based material when it comes towards gold value, and then we can use that to craft it into those feasts and those buff foods, and then we can actually sell that on for a profit. And typically when this type of thing happens, you can usually make a really strong profit, and that's something that I am currently having a look at right now. Now, aside from all of that, what are we actually going to be doing? Well, we're going to be going over raid night stuff. So we've already covered like feasts and all that stuff. So let's just jump back into TSM. So jumping into my TSM right now, what are the things that I'll be wanting to do? Well, if we go into our crafting part and we can go into our TSM groups, we can select all of the groups that we actually need. I've actually got my alchemy one, so I've selected my alchemy for obvious reasons. Raid night stuff, alchemy pots always sell really well, so we'll have that. The next thing is we'll leave off blacksmithing and we'll click on cooking, because we want our cooking stuff. We will want to select our enchants for Shadowlands, so that's something we can do right there. And for this as well, you can always do your jewel crafting, because gems get bought quite easily as well. So that's something we can do right there. And moving on with that, do we want to do glyphs and all that stuff? Well, typically I find that glyphs do sell, but I like to craft them separately. So what we'll actually do is gems, enchants, flasks and pots, and cooking stuff. So let's press a restock right now, and that's going to cost us a lot of gold. So looking at this right now, it's going to cost us around about 300,000 gold for a 100,000 gold return. This is excluding the Darkmoon Daggermore stuff. So obviously we don't have a lot of gold for today, and this is just like a brief summary of what I'm actually going to be intending on doing. I'm going to be trying to make potions of agility, exorcism, and all that stuff. I've noticed that a lot of the herbs have actually dropped in price, which is producing a profit for all of this stuff. This is quite normal for when a raid night actually happens, so be prepared. If you've got your crafting already set up, you can do that as well. I'm actually going to be posting the crafting string within the Discord under Mission Gold Cap, and then people can actually see all that stuff right there. So then you can just import my stuff. So that skips you doing the upfront work. You can just import the string and then just do that. If you want to do it like on a separate profile, I would recommend it, because obviously it could mess up your ordinary one. So you could just make a new profile, which you can do really easily. When you go into settings of TSM, you can just create a new profile right here, and you just type in what profile you want, and you just call it Raid Night or something. So that being the case, that seems to be doing quite well. This won't take us that long to actually create all of this stuff. Of course, I'm going to be doing all of my other things, but this is just a brief summary of what I'll probably be doing. So I'll be doubling down on all of the cooking feasts and all of the buff food for cooking on my server, as well as alchemy pots and flasks, as well, and enchants, as well as jewel crafting stuff. So that is pretty cool right there. So from all of that, let's just get into the gold for the day. So let's port over to the heart of the forest, because we've got all of the stuff we need over here. Regardless, if the prices of Darkmoon Daggermore on your server are very high, you can always fish them up in the area. So that is something you can do right there. But this is just a way on which you can actually make a hell of a lot of gold, and I mean a stupid amount of gold, on the first raid night. You're going to want to cover all of the bases, and that is something I regularly do when it comes to all of that. So, that being the case, let's have a look at the gold for the day, which is a healthy 299,473 gold. Things of note is Missive of Critical Strike. We sold 6 of those for 8,445 gold. The Spine Fin Souffle and Fries, or Souffle, I don't know how to pronounce that, but 30 of those for 3,944 gold. The next thing of note is Umbriel from my prospecting. You can make a lot of gold with prospecting at the moment, and that is just by buying up Leystrate and prospecting it for the gems and then selling it on. PS, you make the money with the essences, so that is something you can do right there. Alongside that, Spectral Flask of Power, 45 of those for 73,661 gold. I noticed that everyone was stocking up beforehand, so I started crafting immediately. Sallow Pigment, we sold 163 of that for 4,513 gold. Enchanted Heavy Callous Hide, we sold one of those for 2,857 gold, as well as Enchant Cloak Fortified Leech, 10 of those for 2,844 gold. The other thing of note is Sunstone Panther, 25,000 gold, not too bad, not too great, only made a few thousand gold on that, so probably something you probably wouldn't want to replicate. The other thing of note is Spectral Flask of Power, 3 of those, 4,913 gold, as well as Spectral Flask of Stamina, 5 of those for 3,614 gold. Other things of note is the Potion of Spectral Agility, and that is 3 of those for 1,627 gold, and we'll actually get onto the big money makers soon, which is another Spectral Flask of Power, 22,230 gold, as well as the Potion of Spectral Agility, 18 of those for 9,763 gold. Other things of note is Tomes of Illusion, we sold another one for Outland for 2,846 gold, as well as Potion of Phantom Fire. We crafted 100 of those. We sold it literally in the first few hours of crafting those for 37,532 gold. We actually made a decent profit on that. Other things of note is more Roseate Pigment, 3,512 gold. We sold a Spectral Flask of Power, just one of those for 1,799 gold. And the big ones here is the Potion of Spectral Agility, once again, 79 of those for 42,851 gold, as well as the Spectral Flask of Power, 9 of those for 16,245 gold, and Spectral Flask of Stamina, 5 of those for 6,137 gold, bringing our total up to 299,473 gold. So let's pull in all that gold right here, and that's going to bring us up to a nice grand total for the actual day, so I'm quite happy with that moving forward. The other things of note that I will be doing, however, is definitely doing those crafts. Those crafts are definitely something I need to be doing. I did invest in a few more things, just so you know, since yesterday, but I'll be covering that in a couple of later videos, as I need to actually do the actual crafts for those. So yeah, I've bought some base mats. I basically sent over 100k to like 2 other characters, so theoretically we should be at about 700,000, but they're all in. 200,000 of that is it, other characters. So that being the case, that is pretty much what I wanted to go over for today, just going over raid night stuff. You can make a lot of money through the first raid night, and it's not a far stretch that you can make a lot more than just a few 100k. If you are well prepped, you can make over like $1 million in that first raid night. That's because everyone's buying all of that stuff. And quite frankly, if you've got the gold investment as well behind you, there's no reason to actually craft more than what I'm crafting. I'm just doing it on my basic float at the moment because I have a load of things invested in mounts. So that being the case, that is something you guys may want to be doing in the future. So other than that, guys, that is pretty much all I wanted to say for the actual day. Take it easy, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow. If you want to support the channel and help make the channel even better, then why not check out the Patreon? Members get additional info, gold making resources, and Patreon specific content. The link is located in the description down below. Thank you, and have an awesome day.